Let's talk with Professor of Economics and Public Policy at the University of Michigan, Justin Wolfers. Welcome back, Professor. I mean, look, based on today's report, rate the economy for us.
Oh, boy, I'm going to give it a B.
Mm.
Now, that's in a world where there's a lot of grade inflation and it's pretty easy to get an A. Look, the economy's slowed. It's slowed very sharply. We're not all the way down to an F. That would be a recession, but we're in striking range of one. We're at that very uncomfortable point where if one thing goes wrong, we are looking at a recession.
So tell me about the diagnosis here, because you heard obviously that tariffs, immigration policies might be to blame. Is that right or too simplistic here?
Look, the timing fits almost perfectly. The jobs growth basically stopped in April. April was when the president moved on from Doge and put tariffs firmly on the agenda. April 2 was the so-called Liberation Day, where he said he was saving the US economy, and we've created very few jobs ever since. It's not just that. It's also, yes, it's also the rise of the new approach to immigration. It's also an incredible increase in the amount of uncertainty that businesses are facing. Tariffs have changed from week to week, from day to month, and finally in August, the administration has decided on a tariff policy. Funnily enough, the Supreme Court is maybe about to rule that the whole thing's unconstitutional. So we've finally gotten certainty, and we're back full of uncertainty yet one more time.
And not just in all sectors, but particularly in manufacturing. The president did promise a golden age of it. But now we know that for a fourth month in a row, that sector is losing jobs. What exactly is happening in that sector? Is there some way to slow, if not reverse, that trend?
Yeah, so honestly, it will be very hard to slow. The US is moving on. We're moving up the value chain. We are creating scientists and engineers more than we are factory workers. And I, for one, am okay with that. There's a nostalgia for manufacturing among many people, often among white-collar folks who've never worked in a plant. Turns out when you interview folks who work in a plant, what do they want their kids to grow up and do? Turns out most of them want their kids to grow up into those cushy office jobs those white-collar folks have. They're a little less nostalgic for manufacturing. Look, what's going on here is actually, it's not left-wing policy versus right-wing policy and ideological debates. It's actually incompetent policy. For instance, who would possibly build a new manufacturing plant based on a set of tariffs that might be struck down on October 18? Or to give another example, page 1 of the tariff handbook, you can sit in on any introductory economics class and we'll tell you, do not put tariffs on inputs. The president has put a tariff, for instance, on steel. Very, very few Americans work producing steel. Hundreds of thousands of them work using steel as an input. Those folks now have to pay a special tariff upcharge that their competitors around the world don't have to pay. That's a very quick and very easy way to make American workers less competitive.
Talk to me about the short term versus the long term on this. Is there short term pain, long term gain when you're talking about the policies that you think are failing? Or is this the inevitable trajectory?
Laura, I think you are marvelous for asking that question, because too often what we do with TV economics is focus on the ups and downs of the business cycle, who won this week, who won last month, and so on. Let's take a step back. You're exactly right to focus on that. And so when economists do that, we ask deeper, harder, more important questions. Why is the United States rich? Why is Argentina poor, even though 100 years ago it was nearly as rich as the United States was? Why is the country I was born in, Papua New Guinea, in grinding poverty? And we've studied this, we economists, for decades now. And the overall answer, there's a complex way of saying it. A simple way is what matters is the quality of our democratic, political, and economic institutions. And so that's things like having an independent Federal Reserve Board. That's things like having the Bureau of Labor Statistics being independent and reporting genuine and true data to each of us. It's allowing people in markets to pursue their passions and pursue their great new ideas, rather than have the president suddenly decide that he wants to tell Coca-Cola how much sweetener which sweetener to put in its beverage, that he wants to tell Intel that the government should own 10% of it, that he wants to tell Harvard who to hire and what to teach, and he wants to tell Cracker Barrel what its logo is. This is an encroachment of the government into economic life that we've seen many times before in many other countries. This plays out very, very slowly, but has very, very large impacts. It's the reason some countries are rich and some are poor. It's not going to show up in tomorrow's economic numbers, but it will show up by the time our kids get to the table and discover the pie's a bit smaller than they were hoping.
Equally fascinating and foreboding. Justin Wolfers, thank you so much for joining.
You're the best, Laura.
With me now, CNN political commentator